Canberra for Canada's Mortgage Minute on Wednesday, April 24th. Hey, something I wanted to talk to you about is we always hear about profiling. I mean, you hear about the FBI doing profiling, governments doing profiling. What about tenant profiling? Now, I'm just going to talk to you about this. Basically, when you own an investment property, it's like owning a small business. And as we all know, to succeed in business, you have to ensure that basically you have a good client base that respects your business and, of course, pays its bills on time. You need your customers to be paying you steadfast. The same holds true in real estate investing. I mean, basically you have to ensure that your tenant profile, that the people you have that are renting your properties are good, solid, suitable people that are going to pay their bills on time and cause you the least amount of grief. Basically, there are a couple of times when you really need to pay attention to this. The first is when you're purchasing a new investment property, and assessing that profile is really important, especially because you're going to be inheriting these folks. And if you don't do your due diligence here, you may have some real issues and costs as far as time, stress, and money. The other thing to note is that sometimes inheriting, let's say, a bad tenant profile or a roughly tenanted house is not such a horrible thing sometimes, because it reflects in the pricing that you paid for the property. You may be able to get a really good deal on that sort of thing, and that works really well. So how do you go about doing this? Well, you assume the existing tenancies. There is that happens typically when when you buy this property. You've got to get comfortable with what you're getting into. So a good way to do it is that when you're getting the property inspected, sometimes this happens on weekends or evenings, try to have it for around those times, because when you're getting, let's say, the property inspection done, the appraisal done, the environmental assessment or whatever, the bottom line is that tenants will be around. Chat them up, have some small talk, do some conversation, see what these folks are all about. When you're looking at the units individually and you're around, you're casually chatting them up, look for the cleanliness of the unit. How clean is it? The items that should be in the unit and shouldn't be in the unit. Maybe there's some really weird, bizarre stuff that you find inside. Pets, if they have them, are they loud? Are they belligerent? Are they really, are they tough to get along with? Does the tenant seem cooperative? This is a good question to ask yourself. Does the tenant complain a lot? I mean, sometimes it's justified. They may have a bad landlord who's really not managing the property well, but at least it's going to tell you a lot about it. Over this time, the other thing you'll be able to see is, does the tenant work? Do they work shift work? What do they do? It basically gives you a really good idea what you're getting into and decide what your comfort level is with it. The other thing that you need to do, and this is a really good investment, it doesn't cost much, under 20 bucks. Basically, I'll get to that in just a minute. Too often landlords, and again, I've been one myself, I've got a couple of rental properties, sometimes you're in a hurry to fill that vacancy. And basically when you're in a hurry to do so, you don't ask a lot of questions, or you try to do it pretty quick. So, the bottom line is, the more things you're going to find out, the more knowledge, more information you get, the better that you're going to find your tenant profile to be. So what kinds of things should you be asking for? Well, you should be asking for a letter of employment or a pay stub. Make sure these folks are working. Call the letter, call the employer, get a reference, call the previous landlord. Tenant traits, I mean, basically, did they show up for the meeting on time? Are they, do they have effective demeanor? Are they punctual? Well, all these things you got to be looking for. Do an online search about the person. I mean, these days with the internet, you can pretty much find out everything. I mean, they're the kind of people that have loud, crazy parties, and is that really what you want? Credit check. Now, this is really important as well. A lot of times landlords don't do this, but this is a really good thing, because if you do a credit check, you're going to know exactly what you're getting into. You get to see how this person pays their bills and how they treat their current debt holders. I mean, let's face it, you're probably going to be one of their larger ones. So let's see, how do they pay their Visa, their car loan, and all these other things. It is a really, really good important. And again, if you have if you're tempted to just fill it, always hesitate for a minute, do your legwork, because I'll tell you what, if you get unfortunately a tenant that is uncooperative, a situation that doesn't work, it's going to cost you thousands of dollars. It's not an easy process to get rid of bad tenants. I mean, they can cause damage in your property. You can have hearings. You've got to go through the real estate government division when you have arbitration and those sorts of things. Sometimes it comes down to you having to hire a sheriff to get the person out. There's a lot of things that can happen if you basically shortcut the process and don't go through the extra effort. So put in the effort, do your due diligence. The costs, I mean, the small amount of time you're going to invest is well worth it. That's basically the bottom line, because when you have good tenants, I mean, you know that those tenancies typically last longer. The folks give you ample notice before they're moving out, so you have ample time to fill it. They generally leave the property in clean condition. They don't cause much disruption to other tenants. And basically, in the long run, this maximizes your revenue, and of course, it reduces your stress level and gives you a lot less brain damage. And when you've got tenants, you certainly don't want a lot of that, and especially if you have multiple properties. So those are just a few tips. I mean, let's face it, it's important to have a good profile of who you're renting to, but in order to get that good tenant profile, you have to be willing to put the effort into it. And take it from me, from experience, I know it's well worth the effort to put that time into it, because it will cause you a lot less grief later. Anyway, it's been Cam for Cam's Mortgage Minute. If you're looking for an investment property, you need some help with a mortgage in that regard, give us a shout. We're always here and happy to help.